welcome to Mindgasms. So, I wanted to make a video about a book that I read yesterday called The Fall of Gondolin, which is one of those other books in the Lord of the Rings universe by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, and it's fascinating because it's like the Silmarillion in that it's almost like a fake non-fiction book within the Middle-earth universe, and there are some pretty boring and dry parts like there kind of are in the Silmarillion, but it's actually more interesting to me than the Silmarillion because it focuses on the Fall of Gondolin, which is basically Tolkien's epic fantasy war. Like, you don't even see shit like this in Lord of the Rings, basically. Like, it's basically multiple Balrogs, multiple dragons, and demons, and orcs, and dark elves, versus men, light elves, wizards, gods, and men. And basically the main character in it is Tuor, who is a prince of men, and he's actually the grandfather of Elrond from Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, of course, who himself, Elrond, is half-Elven, which they never revealed to you in the movie, right? But I think they do in the books. I actually don't remember 100%. But another character is Glorfindel, who he kills the head Balrog, like the leader of the Balrogs, basically, and he actually gets killed by the head Balrog also in the process, but he ends up getting resurrected, and then later on, of course, he is in the Fellowship of the Ring, the book, not the movie. He saves Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin and company from Ringwaiths near the beginning of the book when they're escaping from the Shire, right? And also, so the main bad guy in this too, as people who have read the Silmarillion will know, is Morgoth. He's like basically the principal demon in Middle-earth, which you don't know if you only read the Lord of the Rings. He's basically the equivalent of Satan. He literally is a fallen angel, just like Satan. Not in the Bible, but I believe it's Paradise Lost that comes from and is part of Christian mythology now. And so Malkior is the servant of Morgoth, and he is the one who leads the armies to attack Gondolin and ultimately destroy it, even though Glorfindel and Tuor kill all of the Balrogs, including the leader of the Balrogs, or so they think, as we know from Lord of the Rings. There is a Balrog that attacks and we think kills Gandalf in the Fellowship of the Rings, but then it turns out that he killed what probably is the last Balrog, and he basically gets resurrected in the Two Towers, right? And also when Glorfindel and Tuor they think they kill all the Balrogs, they also kill all of the dragons except two of them. So one of those dragons is obviously Smaug, right? And he obviously ends up in the Hobbit. So I wonder who the other dragon is. I actually don't know. Maybe those of you watching this do know and you can tell me. That would be really cool. But anyway, another principal character in it is Arrendil, who is in the Legends of Middle-earth later on in Lord of the Rings as well. Oh, and to mention that for people who haven't read the Silmarillion, this all takes place in the First Age of Middle-earth, and The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings take place during the Third Age, and at the very end of the Lord of the Rings, the Third Age ends and the Fourth Age starts. So anyway, Arrendil, he's a seafarer, and he's also half-Elven, so he's half-man, half-elf, like Elrond, who, as I said, is the grandfather of Tuor, who is working with Arrendil and also Glorfindel to try and fail to save Gondolin, but they still they think they do. They have destroyed all the Balrogs and all of the dragons except for 2 of them, right? But so when Glorfindel dies and they fail to stop Gondolin from being destroyed, both Tuor ends up getting killed too, I believe, if I remember that correctly. And so when Tuor and Glorfindel die, Arrendil casts his silmaril into the sea, and Tuor loses his when he dies. And the silmaril, of course, are the famous jewels from the Silmarillion, which is why the Silmarillion is called that, right? And then it's cool too because at the end, Tuor, Glorfindel, and Arrendil, and all of the armies that are with the good people, well, the good armies, of course, more races than just people, like elves, etc., right? They all end up successfully catching and imprisoning Morgoth, who, like I said, is basically the Satan of Middle-earth. So they imprison him, and Morgoth, he creates Sauron. So Sauron he's actually not the big, most evil character as we're sort of led to believe in the Lord of the Rings, right? So Morgoth is basically Satan, and Malkior is his servant, and then in the hierarchy, Sauron is like the 3rd one below the main bad guy, who is Morgoth, and he's actually the servant of Morgoth throughout the entire Lord of the Rings, which is pretty cool. So, and he's like I said, he's a creation of Sauron is a creation of Morgoth. And at the end of this, it's pretty cool because like, as Christopher Tolkien compiled all of these writings to create this story of the Fall of Gondolin, who is the son of J.R.R. Tolkien, to form this story. And basically, in Tolkien's writing, he made it clear that it seems, but it's not for sure, that Sauron escaped being imprisoned like Morgoth. So it seems like Sauron might have escaped, and as we know from The Hobbit and especially The Lord of the Rings, it turns out that Sauron did escape, right? And also, I almost forgot to mention that there are cameos in there from some of the characters from Lord of the Rings, like Gandalf and Legolas have little cameos in there too. So it's really cool overall. Like, it's a really cool and fascinating story in like this epic fantasy war. And so yeah, I highly recommend it if you like the Lord of the Rings, and especially if you like the Silmarillion, because it's, like I said, the Fall of Gondolin is a little bit more of a dry style, kind of like the Silmarillion, as rather than the Lord of the Rings. But like I said, I think at least some aspects of it, like fighting multiple Balrogs and dragons, for example, and dark elves who we don't even see in the Lord of the Rings, I think that's pretty fucking cool, and those aspects are even more interesting than the Lord of the Rings to me. But yeah, anyway, check it out, or if you've already read it, let me know what you think in the comments here. And yeah, like I say at the end of all of my videos, thanks to all of you who subscribe to my channel. Press the like button on the video, share this everywhere, click that bell for when I release a new video. Thanks to those of you who contribute to me on Patreon, which I always greatly appreciate. And I'll put the link in the description for my video, like I always do. And like I always say, I love you all. Keep being the tiny beam of light that shines through the almost impenetrable darkness in the universe. And most importantly, always remember this: the funk cures all, and groove is in the heart. And check out the Fall of Gondolin. It's awesome. Alright, spread mindgasms, funk, love, and awesome knowledge about fantasy everywhere, and adios until next time.